Hello, and welcome to Cactus Jim's Master Class, Part 2, and life is an adventure. Running from the cops, running from the cops. Seems I spend half of every day running from the cops. Damn you, Johnny Law. Damn you, Johnny Law. Seems I spend half of every week running from Johnny Law. So you might ask, what does that song have to do with life as an adventure? And so the first adventure would be, this is a possible adventure. Now there's a million adventures that you could try. This one is called running from the cops. And how it works is that you dress a certain way. You don't want to dress preppy, like a preppy or like a Mormon or something. You want to dress, like you live in the street a lot, or you live in your van. And you go into a store, a grocery store, convenience store, whatever, and you just kind of act suspicious. You walk around the store looking around, and then you caught the attention of the clerk, and then you pretend to stick something in your pocket, and then you quickly walk out. You almost run. And then you walk real fast down the street, and then gradually you slow down. But you keep looking around like you're expecting the cops. And so sooner or later, depending on where you are, the clerks probably called 911, so gave them a description of you, and so a cop car you're gonna see a cop car. And as soon as you see the cop car, you just take off. You start running from the cops. You didn't do anything. You're really just running, actually. You just decided to run. And so the cops are going to chase you thinking that you're running from them. And when they catch up to you, don't put up a fight, whatever you do. The cops will probably beat you up. Or maybe they'll choke you or something. And they'll maybe want you to empty your pockets. They want to see what you have. They'll think you stole something. Of course you didn't, so you open your pockets, there's nothing there, maybe your wallet, and then they'll ask you why you ran, and you just said, I don't know, just suddenly wanted to run, just had an urge to move. And so that's a little adventure. It's not for everybody, but it's not for me. I'm an old guy, I can't run. I see a physical therapist just so I can walk. So I can walk my dog. Anyway. And so I don't spend half my day running from the cops. I steal cigarettes and whiskey, and that's why I'm always running from the cops. So life, it's an event. It should be an adventure for everybody. And I don't know where you are that you're watching this. Some things just may not be possible at all to do. Maybe where you live, there are no cops. Where's that? I'd like to move there, okay? So another little adventure is, I call it fill the bed. And it's where you go into a hospital, and as if you're well, you can't do it now because of the pandemic, but once the pandemic is over, if it's ever over, you could go into a hospital as if you're visiting someone. You could even carry a little bouquet of flowers. And you walk up and down the hall until you spot an empty room. And you just walk into the room if nobody's looking. And you put the flowers somewhere, set them down on the windowsill, and you lay in bed. You just lay in bed as if you're a patient. You could even start like groaning, you know, it's like, oh, oh, you know, and then of course sooner or later, you know, a nurse is going to come by and, you know, you could act like you belong there, you know, you could carry it as far as you want to, but it's fun, it's just a fun thing, you know, if you have the balls to do it. Only Cactus Jim has the balls to do some of this stuff, because I just don't give a darn. Anyway, so really the simplest way to live life as an adventure is to live in the present moment. If you can do that, most people can't. I don't know anybody who can actually. But the more you live in the present, the more life will start to seem like an adventure, because you're really living your life. For most people, including me, okay, I'm not exempting myself, you know, most of the time we're really living in our heads. No matter what we're doing, where we are, we're living, and we get attached to these thoughts in our head. So we could be, you know, visiting the Grand Canyon, for example, standing near the edge, looking out over the vast expanse of the Grand Canyon, but we'd have all these thoughts intruding, basically polluting the experience. So we'd be standing there, looking at people hiking down, watching people taking a mule ride down the Grand Canyon, and we're thinking like how much of an asshole our boss is or something, or we're wishing we had a better car. You know, if only I had an SUV, or if you already have an SUV, if only I had a newer one or a bigger one. If only I had a Hummer, you know, then things would be better. You know, if only I had a more understanding husband or boyfriend or girlfriend. If I had a better job, you know, a job that I wasn't working around so many jerks. These are just thoughts. I don't know what you have your own thoughts. I have mine. Okay. My thought is often, if only I could get with this woman who I see periodically for physical therapy, life would be wonderful. Yeah, because I have feelings for her, and that's normal. But when I'm thinking about her and this wonderful life we're going to have, then I'm missing the life that I am having. I could be walking my dog and thinking about this. So I'm missing the experience of walking my dog. And for you, it could be anything. You know, if only I had a boat, you know, or if you have, let's say if you're a fisherman and you have a John boat, you know, with a 3.5 horsepower motor, oh, if only I had a bass boat, a real bass boat with a live well and a, you know, 200 horsepower motor, 2 of them. You know, I could get to the fishing grounds quicker, I could get bigger bass, you know, all of this stuff. You know, if I only had like a Cadillac instead of a Pinto, you know, on and on. The list goes on, and I don't know what it is for you, but you know, I could dredge up things from the past. You know, yeah, my parents, they weren't really great parents when I think about it. You know, they weren't so good. My mother wasn't a very good cook, and my dad, I don't think he made that much money. We could have lived in a better house. You know, well, whatever it is, all around and around, spinning in your head. You know, while you're doing something else. And so, if you can quiet your mind, and that's not easy for anybody, and this video is not about meditation, but meditation will help with that. And all meditation is just sitting somewhere. You know, you might sit in a lotus position if you're able to. I'm not. And you just sit quietly, you know, try to quiet your mind, but thoughts are going to come up, and all you need to do is notice the thought. You don't want to get attached to the thought. That's really the problem. It's not that they're thoughts, and it's not that all thoughts are something bad. Some thoughts do serve you, like technical thoughts. For example, if you're building like a counter, or you're building a spaceship or whatever, you have to pay attention. You have to have a blueprint. You have to think about measurements, things like that. There's nothing wrong with those thoughts. There's nothing wrong with any thoughts really, but it's attachment to them. It's being attached to the thoughts. And there's no reason to be attached to them because they don't have any reality at all, really. They're like old tapes playing in your head. Tapes from the past, who knows where they're from. Things maybe you heard your parents say, or your Uncle Charlie said, some neighbor said, a friend, something you heard on television, and they get stuck there. It's like a song. I'm sure everybody's had a song stick in their head that they keep replaying the song over and over. So the thoughts are similar to that. And the only way to get rid of them really is just to let them come up and notice them. And then after a while, label them. Label them for what they are. They're a thought. So let's say you have this thought that a month ago you were overcharged at a restaurant, and you're going to get even, with those bastards, right? So that thought recurs. And so when it recurs after a number of times, if it just doesn't become boring after a while, if it becomes boring enough, maybe it'll just dissolve on its own. Or you can label it. You can say, instead of the thought itself coming up, you say, oh, there's that thought again that's come up. There's that thought about my mother-in-law. There's that thought about my wife's cooking. There's that thought about the parking attendant in the garage that was rude to me. There's that thought again, that thought again. So you're labeling it as a thought, so then that's all it is. And eventually that's all it will become, is a thought that never had any real reality, and it dissolves. That's what happens, really. To try to repress the thought, it doesn't usually work. It can often give it more power if you try to repress it. Anyway, it's not a video on meditation. Those are just some tips about how to go about it. And there are a lot of videos on here about meditation, and I suggest you watch some of them, and I suggest you start to do it. If you're very, very busy all day, just give it 5 minutes. Get up 10 minutes early every day and just sit at the edge of your bed and meditate. And just sit there. So after a while, eventually, your mind will quiet down eventually. It could take a long time, but once it does, then you can really start to live in the present. And if you can live in the present, the more you can live in the present, the more life it'll seem very different, and it'll be so different, it'll be almost exhilarating. I was helping this guy who emailed me from the video. He lives in Texas, and initially he sent an email, about what a failure he felt he was. He wasn't good to his family, on and on, right? And then I emailed him back, and after a month, he wrote, and he said things are getting better. Things are getting better. And I wrote again, and then he wrote back, and he said that how living in the present has really changed him and his perspective, and that he even enjoys doing mundane tasks now because he does them fully in the present. And I thought that was really cool. He's progressed, in like 2 months or 3, he's progressed that far, and we all can, actually. We all have that capacity. So it's kind of my lesson for today, is that, is the idea. And if you haven't watched the first video, it's about that too, but more about being open to things. And I'll mention it briefly here in case you never watched the other video. What you want to do is be open to have your life as an adventure. Be open to new ideas, new hobbies maybe. If you're already an artist and your focus is on, say, landscapes, or you're say a photographer like I am, your focus is on landscapes, change it up. Do still lifes, and or vice versa. If you don't do any art, I do everything. I sing, I dance. Yeah, right. You're thinking, yeah, you're bullshit. Anyway, but I do a lot of different things, and it adds to my life. I do artwork. I've sold artwork. I've sold photographs. I work in clay. I make ceramic pieces, and that's very enjoyable. It's a possibility for you, and there's a lot out there. Learn to pitch horseshoes. If there's a place to go swimming, go swimming. Just out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone. Just do something crazy. Not necessarily dangerous crazy, or you know what I mean. But if you want to bungee jump, it's probably safe enough, then do it. Especially do things that you can do but are afraid to do. For example, bungee jumping. For me, I am afraid to do that. So it'd be an ideal thing for me to do. And or skydiving, something like that. Recently, I went to a psychic, a card reader. That wasn't, especially dangerous, but it was new to me. And this woman had a deck of tarot cards, read my cards, told me about myself, and a little bit about, what I was looking at down the road. And it was all very interesting. It was different. And I did take away, something from that. So you could do that. If you go to the zoo, if you're anywhere near the ocean and you don't know how to surf on a surfboard, learn. Take lessons. Go up in a small plane. Around most airports, there's a small company that will train you to be a pilot, get your pilot's license, and that costs like $10,000 or $12,000. If you have the money, maybe that's a good idea. Otherwise, you can just go up. One of the instructors will just take you up on a little trip for an hour or two, and they charge about $200 an hour. And you take your girlfriend up for her birthday, something like that, or just go up by yourself. So again, depending on where you live, what the opportunities are, there's always things to do. But no matter where you live or under what circumstances, even if you're in prison. In fact, that's one thing, I always have a prison pen pal, and I have one now, and I try to help her that way, to live in the present, so she can have a better experience in prison. She still has 3 years to go. And so even in prison, you can really, and she has too, she's taken some of my advice, and she's doing better, because a lot of it's in your head, it's how you're feeling. It's not the actual situation itself, really. It's about how you feel about it, how you react to it. So like I say, just sending her some emails, trying to give her some advice, similar to what I'm talking about here. Things are going easier for her. And so wherever you are, you can change. And you can always, if you have no other options, you can always work towards living in the present. And that's good advice for anybody, no matter who you are, where you are, whether you're rich or poor. Live in the present and learn to do it. So that's my talk for the day. I want to thank you for watching, and I'm going to sign off.